get to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what we can do with all of this information. This is your first time tuning in. Welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Monday, everybody. I am rolling solo today. So today's show, we're going to break down. We're going to do our lane analysis out there. We're going to be doing some article breakdowns, and we're going to dive right in here because your boy's got a lot of freight moving today, and I got a lot more cold calls to make today as well. So today, you guys, we're going to dive into This Week in Freight, powered by my friends over at DAT. If you want your lane broken down on the show, I need you to email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. This is 100% viewer submitted, okay? So today is a drive-in, and it is going to be out in Ontario, California, going to Dallas, Texas. Now, as a lane that we personally run, and we're running as of last week, I couldn't tell you how you could say refreshing, but almost it's not, in the sense of how these lanes, and primarily the Los Angeles market, how they, when capacity tightens up like it has, and it's just a little bit, carriers are a little bit more choosy on the freight that they want to run. It's amazing how it reverts back to how it was when I first started moving freight, 15 plus years ago now, how it's like early, like I cannot stress this enough. If you're moving freight on Friday in the Los Angeles market, book early. Do not wait. Do not hold on. It will always get more expensive out there. We ended up booking it dang near very similar to what you're seeing out here right now. And all I'll say is I'm glad I took that one, because we got more calls throughout on some people, and it was like $2,000 more, $3,000 more as the day kind of progressed out there. But when we're going and we're assessing any of these lanes, obviously miles is the first thing I look at, you guys. So we got 1,400 loaded miles on this. This is a great Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday pickup, or a Friday pickup. Thursday to Monday, that's when you're going to see an exponential price increase out there. How do I know? I just went through that. And that's where we were seeing those couple $1,000 swings out there. But, when you're looking at that, that's the first thing you want to pay attention to. With this in particular, this lane is only going to get higher as the summer months progress, because this is peak season out there. And over the summer, it's like the busiest time in most markets. And we're seeing a lot of that in a lot of the markets across the United States right now. Not every single market, but the majority of those major markets that you've seen in the past, this is where those are going to be affected here. And from pricing perspective, this is only going to go up. All right. I'm not going to, and I'm saying that from this standpoint and this standpoint only, you guys. I moved this lane. All right. Very similar lanes within like 100 miles of Los Angeles, going to within 50 miles of Dallas, Fort Worth. And the swings that you can see on this are like, I think that's where you see everybody complaining on social media with where rates are and why carriers quote what they quote. It doesn't offend me anymore. It used to early on in my career, but this lane in particular, like we got it booked for very similar to what we're seeing here. And it was a swing of like $2,000 is what I had seen on that one. And that's the quotes that we were getting in there. And it's one of those ones, you guys book early on this. And especially if you get that right truck for it, don't hold out. Like, I know it's painful. All right. I know it's painful when you're going in there and you're seeing your margins get compressed, or maybe you quoted this load a couple of days ago and capacity is different, right? Like, things change at a rapid pace right now. And I just had this conversation this morning with a customer of mine because they wanted me to commit to some volume out there. And, it's a decent amount of volume, but I told them, I'm like, I can't give them a set rate. I wish I could, I can't do that right now because there are so many volatile swings that can happen that I would be doing them a disservice. And you have to be willing to have these conversations with your customer in any market, but especially right now, especially in some of these ones where it can rapidly change overnight throughout the day. And that's one thing in the state of California. We'll just go Thursday, Fridays. If you don't book that truck early, I'm not going to say you're not going to find the rate that you're looking for. More than likely, it will only get more expensive as the day progresses. And this lane in particular, it's probably going to have a 5 in front of it within the next couple of weeks. I hope this lane pops back up because the outbound California markets, primarily LA, is one of my favorite ones because it is definitely one of the more volatile markets that are out there when capacity tightens up and rates increase because there's so much freight that is moving inside of those markets. I wouldn't be surprised if post 4th of July, that's like this lane's moving for a minimum of $5,400+ because diesel is not going down in the state of California. And that's always going to be the main driver that a lot of the carriers are going to be looking for out there. So this lane, there's always going to be capacity for it. It's just not going to be what you might want to pay. So book that truck early, talk to your customers about this. If you can get a short-term rate commitment, whether it be a couple weeks, maybe a couple, like no more. I wouldn't even do it more than 2 weeks, to be honest with you. And I'm not just saying this to try and deter you guys. I'm just literally telling you guys what we do inside of our operation. It's the only way to really navigate through this because at the end of the day, customers need their freight to move. Nobody wants to deal with that stuff, but they need a real partner to come out there. So that is This Week in Freight, powered by DAT, Ontario, California to Dallas, Texas. That lane's only going up. I think more lanes are only going to increase, especially through the 4th of July holiday coming up here. And that's another one to pay attention to, you guys. Like, it's going to be I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing rate increases on even more lanes the week of the 22nd. And then it's going to go through probably July 10th. I'm just speaking from experience with the fact that the holiday is on a Saturday. So there are going to be a combination of facilities closed on the 3rd or Monday the 6th in observance for that holiday. So pay close attention to that stuff. It's only going to increase your transportation quotes around that time. It's going to negatively affect capacity as well. So just be on the lookout for all of that stuff. Okay. So let's dive into some articles here, you guys. I got a couple of them. They are kind of in line with a lot of what we've been talking about in cargo theft, safety ratings, all of that stuff that's going on out there. But before we go into that, I want to talk more like strategy here on what I'm seeing from a business development perspective. And this is probably more geared towards telling this to myself than anything. It's for as volatile as it is out there. New business development is still going to take a lot of effort, right? Because I think that there's so much being thrown at people all throughout the day. And, again, like I have a lot of shippers who watch this show. I'm friends with a lot of shippers out there. I was just chatting with a buddy of mine this past week about it, who, like, he's in the shipping department, but he doesn't make any of the decisions. And he says, like, him and everybody have said, like, there's a minimum of like 40 to 60 outreaches a week just on like LinkedIn alone, right? That doesn't include cold calls. That doesn't include emails and everything else if their email address is out there on any of the lead generation software. So I think now more than ever, it's like, how can you separate yourself? What can you do to prove you're a human being? I'm writing, I just bought a bunch of cards, like handwritten notes, and I'm sending out at least 5 of those a day to some of our prospects out there, because I don't know how to prove that I have a pulse in any other way than just put pen to paper. Thankfully, I'm old enough to remember how to address an envelope properly and mail it out there. So hopefully we can also help balance the USPS budget here as well with the amount of stamps I'm going to be purchasing as we get going, because I just look at it in any environment, especially now more than ever, is you have to adopt numerous ways of getting noticed out there, because you really only need one, right? Like, if I look at my current book of business right now, like, we're growing with our existing customers, right? Like, our existing customers are doing really well. We're growing with all of them. Our market share is increasing with all of them, but I can't rest on that, right? I need to be constantly on the pursuit for new business, and I have to think of ways to get noticed out there. So I try and use all of the tools that are at my disposal to just show that I'm not like everybody else out there. So I think, keep that in mind as you're going and prospecting, right? Because no matter what, you just need one. You need to be able to separate yourself in any way, shape, or form that you can. Whether that's going to be showing up at their front door, sending them a handwritten note, email, doing something different via email to show that it's different. Maybe, I don't know. I just look at it as from a new business development perspective, it's going a little bit, at least for me, it's going a little bit slower than I had hoped with everything that's going on out there right now. But at the end of the day, I'm only focused in on how do I just get one new customer out there? How do I earn their business? And how do I just get more and more refined? And it's always going to boil down to reps. All right. You have to show up and you have to I could easily sit back and be like, oh, nobody's adding anybody, just like everybody's done for these last 4 years. But that's just not the case. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a growing business like we do, fortunately. But we have to go down and really double down on our sales efforts right now. And literally, I think the more that people push automation and robo dialing and all of that stuff, you going back to the basics. And I'm banking on this, you guys. Like, I'm banking on this, that this is going to be the way that business is going to be developed again here, is it's going to go with that old school methodology. Not going to say that this is going to be a one size fits all, because it's never going to be a one size fits all. But, how are you utilizing all of the tools at your disposal? Are you connecting with all your prospects on social media? Are you, sending that? Are you creating content that gets them noticed? I mean, I know I do a lot more content compared to the average individual out there due to the fact that I run a media company as well as a freight brokerage. It works, you guys. It's such a effective tool, and social media is free, right? You don't need anything other than your cell phone. Create a little personalized video, not a general one that you blast out to everybody, but do a very intentional one. Just start off doing a couple a day. Call out the prospect by name, do anything to kind of get out there and build that up, because you would be surprised, you guys, at the amount of time somebody needs to see your name before they get before they recognize you. And then on top of that, it's amazing what happens out there. And don't pay attention to what I'm not saying this to deter anybody from creating content, but algorithms change and people might not see your content anymore. And if that's the case, that doesn't mean you stop creating, right? Like, you got to double down on that and continue to put your stuff out there to stay visible, because it is only a matter of time. I've had that. I've had the fortunate, like I had said, a lot of shippers watch this show. They all know I broker freight. I would assume that if they needed a new provider, I might be on their short list, considering we email back and forth all the time on a lot of the data and market analysis that we talk about. But, it doesn't mean that it's a guarantee, right? And I'm not banking on that. So I think, like, no matter what, you got to look at multiple modes of prospecting right now to stand out in that crowd, to get noticed, because it's very easy to get frustrated. And then especially when you're quoting, you might not be making a ton of money on your quotes. You might be off on your quotes. It's an interesting time, right? But like, this is the real freight market. All right. These last couple of years have not been like the freight market at all. It was like fantasy land, essentially. Like, the way things are right now, this is the way that it normally is. And this is kind of how it's probably going to stay for quite some time. But let's dive into some articles. As always, all the links to the articles are going to be uploaded into the show notes. Please read them all out on your own. First article, ttnews.com states crack down on cargo theft as deceptive pickups rise. Before I even jump in to reading any of this stuff, you guys, I just want you to all be aware, because we've had this personally happen inside of our organization. No shipper is going to cold email you and give you freight if you've never talked to them. All right. I hate to be the bearer of bad news out there. I just saw this article made me think of this. I saw some other posts out there on social media. And it just reminded me of the few times that we've had that happen, where people will email you Spoofing's a very real thing, you guys, and they're just looking. It's not real. All right. I can't put it any other way. No shipper is going to cold email you to move your freight in today's environment. I'm not saying it hasn't happened in the past. In today's environment, no shipper is going to cold email you and give you freight if you've never talked to them one time. All right. And if that email comes in and it seems a little fishy, probably is, maybe call the business and see if that individual even works for them. I think you'd be shocked at the amount of spoofing that is starting to go on out there because people are trying anything to, this is like that next iteration of stuff out there. But, it says, driven by a severe lack of immediate federal intervention against sophisticated cargo crime syndicates, individual states are taking aggressive legislative action to protect the supply chain. Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Virginia have moved forward with robust standalone cargo theft statutes. Virginia has led the charge by classifying cargo theft as grand larceny offense, carrying up to 20 years in prison. Thank you, Virginia. I love that. While Indiana and Ohio have established highly funded, dedicated state police task force backed by the ATA, these legislative efforts focus not just on low-level thieves, but on dismantling the digital identity fraud frameworks and fencing operations used to resell stolen commodities across state lines. I also got to give a shout out to the state of Arizona. They are also doing stuff. I am with, I don't know if they want me to mention the individual's name themselves that I'm in contact with over there, but they are doing a lot of that as well. So I know it's going on in the state of Arizona. But, I look at it is it's great to see that states are taking it into their own hands. Like legitimately, it needs to happen, right? And then on top of that, to take it a step further, yes, the NMFTA has been a longtime advertiser of this show, but they have the Freight Fraud Prevention Hub, you guys. Like sign up for this, look into this. This is where we're going to get and stay ahead of this stuff because they are a lot of the tactics that are utilized out there, you guys, have been utilized for a long time. And a lot of people are afraid to kind of wave the white flag and put that out there. But for us to be able to move forward as an industry, by signing up for something like the Freight Fraud Prevention Hub, putting those best practices out there, this is what we've done to thwart a lot of these efforts. That's how we're going to really put a dent inside of this stuff. And then from the legislative standpoint, seeing the states do this, like I've often said this on this show, is when there's no fear of repercussions, you guys, people are going to willingly commit crimes, right? Like I am a very much tough on crime individual. I believe that if you, and this goes across the board, I don't believe in any loopholes for anybody. If you commit a crime, you should legitimately be punished to the most severest extent of the law, because the individuals out there who aren't committing crimes primarily with stolen goods and everything else and rising insurance costs and manufacturing, who pays for that, you guys? We do. So like we should want that to happen. I'm not saying that that's going to be the main driver to lower costs out there. There's a ton of economic factors that come into it, but ultimately we're paying for this, right? Every time somebody's insurance premium goes up out there, on the food and beverage side of things, manufacturing, CPG, all of that stuff, anytime the operational costs increase, that gets passed down and it comes down to the end user, the consumer, and all of that. So it's like we should want extreme tough on crime laws out there to stop individuals, right? Or at least make them second guess it, right? Like criminals are going to be criminals no matter what. But if we can stop a couple of individuals from doing it because they're looking at 20 years in prison, I mean, if we can stop one of those, I think that's a step in the right direction. I just look at it where, and I said this on the show last week, a lot of these people are organizing offshore. They're not around here at all. And it's a lot of fly-by-night operations because, it is talking about a lot of these fictitious warehouses that are out there where they're liquidating a lot of this stuff. I personally would love to see some of these resellers start handing over a lot of, and it could be happening, right? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but I would love to see some of these third-party resellers that are out there have to give up a lot of this information to expose a lot of this stuff, right? And I just look at it where there is there's always going to be limited resources and everything else. But I think ultimately, in its simplest form, you guys, we need to come together and start putting a lot of these things out there, start talking about these situations that we've seen. And just to help put a stop or at least minimize a lot of this stuff. Because I think if we all sat down in a room, if you've ever had a load stolen before, if you've ever had a load double brokered before, and we sat in a room and actually talked about step by step what happened, I guarantee it's within a couple of points of each other that it was the exact same situation. I truly do. I think a lot of this stuff goes on because people are lazy. They don't double check information that's out there. And I think that for us, and then again, finally, when states and the feds allow this stuff to happen, it's not going to stop anybody from committing these crimes, right? When they're allowed to operate like this, it does not do anybody any good. So it's good to see that these states are going on and putting this stuff and putting a call to action out there. And I love the 20 years in Virginia. That's my biggest takeaway from it. I hope other states adopt it. And hell, add a 3 in front of it, right? Go 30 years in prison. Do something. We got to make severe penalties, you guys. It's not going to stop everything, but it's going to make somebody question it, right? Like, damn, is it really worth it? If I get caught to go to prison for 30 years, I know that there are people out there who don't care. They'll go serve. They're like, but that's like, we should want to stop the individual out there who we can at least try and help. But I truly think that a tough on crime environment really does a lot of that. But that article is from ttnews.com, and that states crack down on cargo theft as deceptive pickups rise. And a lot of those deceptive pickups, you guys, come from somebody acting as a shipper that's not a shipper. Pay attention to that. They're not reaching out to you, not in a cold sense if you've never reached out to them. Second article we are going to be breaking down is from freightwaves.com. Request by California-based driver could affect thousands of work-authorized transporters. Sorry, my computer. CDL fight reignites as DACA recipients petition the FMCSA. A California woman is asking federal regulators to temporarily restore CDL's eligibility for DACA, and that's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals recipients, setting up a new chapter in the ongoing debate over immigration status. The FMCSA announced Tuesday that it has received an exemption request from Jennifer Sanchez, seeking permission from states to issue Class B passenger vehicle CDLs out there. The agency is accepting public comments through July 2nd. According to the Federal Register's notice, Sanchez is seeking an immediate temporary exemption that would allow state driver licensing agencies to issue Class B CDLs to DACA holders. The FMCSA will review this application, safety analysis, and public comments for determining whether granting the exemption would provide a level of safety equivalent or greater to existing regulations. And then if approved, the exemption could provide a temporary pathway for DACA recipients seeking Class B commercial driving jobs. And the petition arrives just months after the FMCSA implemented stricter eligibility standards for non-domiciled CDLs. And, I think that, and I'm not the biggest, we need more federal oversight thing. I just look at it as if you are going to cross state lines and do any interstate commerce of any stretch of the imagination, I just look at it as there's, and this is not a red or a blue thing. I think because you see it in multiple different states. There's different requirements to get a CDL. And if you're going to be crossing state lines, like I want to see that closed, right? Like I would love to see a federal guideline only if you're going to cross state lines at all, that there's a set federal standard that every state has to adhere to. I think that this is where you start to see a lot of those loopholes come in. I mean, just pay attention to a lot of what you see right now in some of these primaries, elections and stuff, right? Like there's different laws for different states on how votes are counted, for example, right? Now, and then people are going to scream fraud from that. And then if you have this in the CDLs and everything else, like I think the time and the place has since passed. I think we need a set federal guideline if you're going to cross state lines. at all and participate in interstate commerce, that needs to be a set federal guideline. I think they need to remove the state's ability to even issue a CDL at this point to see if that stops a lot of this stuff. And then I think that talking about immigration status in regards to being able to obtain a CDL, as I've said on this show in the past, if you are here legally, whether that's a work visa, green card, anything like that, you should be able to get a CDL as long as you can pass all the same guidelines as the rest of us, right? I don't see how that's so controversial. Again, I'm not a fan of loopholes of any kind. There should be no exceptions for anybody out there. If I'm held to a certain standard to be able to operate my business, everybody should be held to that exact same standard. All right. I don't see how that's controversial at all. And, it also, I just look at it as there's always going to be another loophole that people are looking to create, right? Like they're always looking for another thing to try and open up out there where it's like, I think that we should remove any and all loopholes. There should be one set federal guideline. If you can't pass it, you can't drive. It's as simple as that. That goes to even people who are born in the United States of America. If you are illiterate and you cannot read, you should not be able to operate a semi. Plain and simple. All right. It's the same thing across the board. I think that's how you remove any and all prejudice from a lot of this stuff. I truly do, because I think that everybody likes to call foul on that. But it's like, I think everybody out there at the end of the day, if you cannot meet these federal guidelines to drive a truck across state lines, and that comes to back down to people who are born here in the United States, if you cannot read, you should not be operating a semi. I don't want you driving down the road next to me. I don't care how many years you have. If you can't read, that's very basic shit, right? So, and because that's always their main thing, the biggest opponents of the DACA recipients and work visas and everything else is, oh, they can't read and speak the language. Well, if there's one set federal guideline that says every single driver out there has to meet those requirements, that removes that prejudice, right? That removes that bias out there. I think that's where things personally need to go. Because if it is about safety, if it is about somebody's ability to read and speak the language and literacy, having a literacy test, I think everybody should be held to that standard. It's just my personal opinion on that. I think that would probably lead to a lot different industry as a whole. But that's going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. That second article is about CDL fight reignites as DACA recipient petitions the FMCSA. And I think, to put it as simple as this, as long as they've done everything in accordance to the law and they can pass the same test that everybody else does, I don't see the issue with it, right? But I'm sure everybody's got an opinion on that, because everybody's got an opinion on everything. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. We do got guests coming on for the rest of the week here. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, do your boy a solid, subscribe to the show, share it out there, because if you see value, your network's going to see it as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang, window down, yelling out money, anything. Hey, ooh, got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the